Speaker, Professor Sigmund. Opening scene. A diverse college classroom with some students in person, others on Zoom. Laptops are open, phones buzz quietly, and one student doodles a brain while another scrolls social media. Professor Sigmund. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to PSY 101, Fundamentals of Psychology. I'm Professor Sigmund, and I'll be your guide on this fascinating journey through the science of behavior and the mind. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Psychology? Isn't that just common sense? Or maybe, I've watched enough true crime to know how people think. But here's the truth. Psychology isn't guesswork, it's science. Real, rigorous, evidence-based science. And in this first unit, we'll unpack what that means and why it matters, not just here in the US, but around the world. Let's start with a question. Student voice. Jasmine, a child studies major. Is psychology just therapy and diagnosing people with disorders? Professor Sigmund. That's a super common question, and the answer is no. Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. We study how people think, feel, remember, interact, learn, and change over time. And we use the scientific method, the same process used in biology or chemistry. Segment 1. What is psychology and why should I care? Professor Sigmund. Psychology isn't just about therapists with notepads. It's about understanding people in real contexts, on the street, in hospitals, in courtrooms, in classrooms, and even on social media. In criminal justice, psychology helps us understand false confessions and bias in jury selection. In human services, it helps us understand trauma, substance use, and how children form bonds in foster care. In child studies, it supports developmental milestones and culturally responsive classrooms. In biology, it explains how brain chemistry affects mood and behavior, while integrating models like Te-Ware Tapawa from New Zealand, which blends physical, mental, family, and spiritual well-being. Psychology is everywhere. Understanding it makes you better at what you do, no matter your major or where you live. Segment 2. The Goals of Psychology, Professor Sigmund. Psychology has 4 main goals. Describe behavior, predict behavior, explain behavior, control or change behavior. Student voice. Malik, a criminal justice major. I work part-time at a group home. The teens I work with act out when staff change shifts. Why? Professor Sigmund. A psychologist would first describe the behavior. Aggression increases during staff changes. They'd predict it. Every time a new staff member arrives, aggression spikes. They'd explain it. The teens may feel insecure from inconsistent relationships, something Nigerian psychiatrist Thomas Adeoye Lambo addressed by involving community in care. And they'd change it by improving transitions and building trust. Segment 3. Psychology as a science professor. Sigmund, psychologists don't guess. We observe, hypothesize, test, analyze, and conclude. For example, suppose we want to know if bedtime stories improve language development. We might hypothesize children who are read to daily will develop vocabulary faster. We'd compare data, analyze results, and draw conclusions, just as researchers worldwide do to understand learning differences. We also follow strict ethics, like those influenced by Mamie and Kenneth Clark's research showing how segregation harms children's self-esteem. Segment 4. What psychology isn't and why that matters. Professor Sigmund. Psychology is not just therapy, just common sense, mind reading, based on vibes. Psychology is evidence-based, connected to law, biology, sociology, education, and culture. Ethical, protecting human dignity in every interaction. When we understand what psychology is, We can use it to create real change in schools, healthcare, communities, and justice systems. Segment 5. Real Life, Real Impact. Professor Sigmund, Biology. Research on neurotransmitters led to antidepressants like SSRIs. Child studies. Attachment theory supports smoother preschool transitions in the US and Japan. Human services. Liberation psychology in El Salvador links healing to justice. Criminal justice. Forensic psychology shapes fair interrogation practices adapted for different cultures. You don't have to become a psychologist to use psychology. You just have to understand it. Segment 6. What to expect in this course. Professor Sigmund will explore research methods and ethics, development and personality, psychological disorders and treatment, emotions, motivation and behavior, social influence and group dynamics. We'll draw examples from around the globe. By the end, you won't just know psychology, you'll use it to improve your work, relationships, and community. Final segment, the invitation, Professor Sigmund. Start paying attention to your behavior, your thoughts, and the people around you. Ask yourself, why do people do what they do? Why do I do what I do? Psychology gives you the tools to answer those questions. Once you understand people, including yourself, you can lead, support, help, teach, and heal in any setting. This isn't just a course. It's a new way of seeing the world, one that recognizes the mind as both deeply personal and universally human. Welcome to PSY 101. Let's get to work.